Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! This story is from late September. I was thinking about it for a bit yesterday, and I think this story could go here. It's the day after my birthday. I was stoked to exist due to the wonderful birthday I had. Unfortunately, it was a Monday and I had to commute to my university for class. No problem since I was in such a good mood. I drive as normal, singing along to the music I was playing in my car. I took my exit as normal as well. However, when I got to the end of the exit, where the stoplight is, a car ended up trying to switch lanes without signaling and ended up hitting me. You see, the exit had 3 lanes towards the end. One to go left, one to go straight, and one to go right. I was in the middle lane, trying to go straight, and the car that hit me was in the left lane. I was terrified because this was my first accident. I hate to say, but I'm kind of a coward, and so I was also crying because I was that scared. We pull out of the exit and go into a nearby parking lot to call the police. And now, the mess begins. The entitled dad of the story steps out of the driver's seat of his car and comes over to my passenger side window, tapping it. "Why did you hit my car? Who are you to drive so recklessly?" His entitled son, who is standing behind his dad, says, "Yo, what the heck? Do you know how much this car was?" It was a Lexus, so I assumed a lot. At that point, I just lock my doors and call my dad. My dad then reassures me that everything will be okay and to just calm down and call the cops. I just do that, but the entitled dad continues to be a jerk, while his son is also calling the cops. The entitled dad is just standing outside my passenger side window, holding a checkbook. He keeps telling me, "You're young, this will go on your permanent record, can you even afford the increase in insurance, and let us give you money," and so on and so on. When the son was done with the 911 call, he also joined his father and started being a jerk, yelling, "Yo, just take the money and leave. We have places to be." I am no genius, but I knew that if I took the money and left, they would have told the cops who were on the way that it was a hit and run. Thus, the blame would all be on me. I just put my headphones and waited for the cops. All the while, the entitled dad and son were goading me to take their money and just leave. City police eventually come to the lot. When I saw the cop pull up, I put away my headphones and stepped out of my car. The cop walked right past me and went towards the entitled dad and asked him what had happened. The entitled dad then proceeded to tell him that I hit him while merging into the center lane. When the cop came over to me, he told me that it's out of his hands, since it was on a state highway line, so state police were on the way. He then had the gall to tell me, "Drive responsibly next time," when it was not even my fault and without asking for my side of the story. I got back in my car and locked the door once again as I waited for state police. Again, the entitled dad and son were at my window, telling me to take their money and save my permanent record. State police eventually arrived and they did their jobs. They asked me to tell my side and they asked the entitled dad and son to tell their sides. The entitled dad and son said the same thing they told the city police, that I hit them while merging lanes, and I said the opposite. The state policeman didn't take the entitled dad and son's nonsense. The damage to our cars said otherwise. He just listened to the two who would give smug glances back at me every once in a while. Eventually, the police let us go and the waiting game started for the police report and insurance claims. Fast forward 2.5 weeks and the police report says exactly what the truth is, that the entitled dad and son were at fault for the accident, and that they actually told the cops that they offered me money to leave, but I didn't take it. They had to pay over $2,000 for my car repair, as well as the money for my rental car. My insurance didn't even go up. In fact, it dropped due to losing the status. Of new driver. So this happened to my friend's older brother a couple of months ago. I don't remember all the details, but I do have permission to post it here. The cast. My friend's older brother. My friend, the dad, I'm just going to call him the entitled dad. His kid, the entitled kid. the employee and two really nice officers. My friend and their older brother had just left school and my friend wanted Tim Hortons, so they went and parked the car in the parking lot. They went inside and got their food. They ate inside because the older brother met some of his friends there and hung out with them, and my friend just sat with them. As they were eating, a dad and his kid, the kid looked about 16 or 17, entered the parking lot in a really old and rusty car. They parked next to the older brother's car and they got out. They started looking around if anyone was watching. I should mention that the older brother has a pretty new car, a 2018 I think Honda Civic. The dad is looking inside while the kid is checking if the doors are unlocked. At this point I saw what was going on outside and told the older brother. They rushed outside and asked the dad and kid what they were doing. And the conversation went a bit like this. "Hey, what are you doing?" "I'm just looking at this car. What do you want?" "That's my car." "Oh, I have a great idea, kid. How about we trade cars, huh? I can have yours and you can have mine. You don't need such a nice new car, huh?" "Well, if you want a new car so bad, just buy one yourself." "Yo, Dad, look! There is a really expensive looking watch in here." "Get away from my car. You cannot have it. And go away before I call the cops." "I'm an adult and you have to listen to me. Have your parents never taught you any manners?" At this point, an employee came out to see what the shouting was all about. "What's going on here?" "This kid is trying to steal my car. He says he wants a new car, and his parents won't buy one for him. He tried to take my car so he could have a new one." And this is where all of the older brother's friends and my friend said that that's not true. Older brother said that he can prove that the car is his, and that the dad is lying. He showed the employee the car keys and took out the paperwork saying that the car is his. The employee saw everything he needed to see and called the cops. The whole time the dad and son were denying it and saying the older brother stole the car keys and that the paperwork was fake. When the police showed up, the dad and son realized and tried to run. We stopped him and the police quickly cuffed him. The police checked the security cameras of the Tim Hortons and looked at older brother's paperwork. After about 20 minutes of investigation, the dad and son were officially arrested. I am not going to share all the legal details, but after everything, the dad got a few months in jail and the son had to do community service. Thankfully, it didn't escalate to any violence and my friend laughs about it now. Edit. I forgot the part where they damaged the car after the employee went inside and called the cops. The older brother tried to stop him, but it didn't work. They scratched the whole side and dented it pretty badly. Before they could stop him, the older brother and his friends held him to stop them from any further damage. I was typing this late at night and completely forgot about this part accidentally. One of the reasons my marriage works is that my husband and I have very similar opinions most of the time. One of the notable exceptions to this is the parking brake. When I learned to drive, I was taught to use a parking brake every time I parked. Once I got my license, I learned that not everybody actually does that. I made a conscious decision to continue to use parking brake for every park. It's better to use when it's not needed than to forget it when it's needed. Also, building the habit of taking the brake on and off means I'm less likely to end up driving around with a parking brake on and eventually needing an expensive repair. My husband only uses a parking brake when he parks on a very steep hill. Parked on any hill, he turns the steering wheel so that if the car rolls, it will roll into the curb. He actually does what a lot of people do, including my driver instructor. He turns the wheel, then lets the car roll until it's touching the curb. He claims this is extra safe. I don't think it's any safer than just turning the wheel. Tires are expensive and it's unnecessary wear and tear on them to leave them smashed up against the curb. We've come to an agree to disagree about the parking brake. He sometimes grumbles a little when he drives a car that I drove earlier and has to remember to take the brake off, but it's not really any kind of a big deal. Well, my stepdaughter learned to drive. Her dad has been the main driver instructor, but with his blessing because I'm not her actual parent, I've done some driving instruction too. The first time the emergency brake came up, we explained that her dad and I had different habits about how we use a parking brake. We told her that for simplicity while she was learning, she should do it Dad's way. But when she's out driving on her own, she will eventually develop her own habits. This was about a year ago. Today my stepdaughter drove and it was the first time she parked on a hill by a curb. It was a slight hill but definitely a hill. She parked by the curb and asked if she should use a parking brake. At the same time I said yes and her dad said no. He instructed her to turn the wheel and let the car roll into the curb and that was good enough. I let him finish this instruction. When we got out though, I said that I prefer to use the emergency brake and not press the tires against the curb. I didn't say his way was wrong. I just shared that I do the same parking job a different way than her dad does it. This is a normal thing we've done throughout her learning to drive. Well, I don't know, my husband must have gotten up on the wrong side of the bed because he got a little salty and said maybe you should read the driver's manual and see what it says about parking. I was a little annoyed but I was going to let it drop. However, once we got where we headed and I had a minute, I thought I should just do that. We currently live in a different state than the one I learned to drive in, and I've never read the driver manual for this state. I have no idea what the laws or suggestions about parking brakes are. So I pulled up the state manual on my phone and looked at the section on parking. Boom! Right at the top. You should use your parking brake every time you park. In the section on hill parking, it says to turn the wheel but doesn't say to roll your car until the tire is up against the curb. I showed this to my stepdaughter and she found it hysterical, especially since her dad did learn to drive in this state from his dad who was a retired cop, although he also rarely uses his parking brake. My husband just rolled his eyes at me. I went on to tell my stepdaughter that the most important thing is to secure her car in some way when she parks on a hill. Her dad and I are both good drivers, and as she gets more experience, she will figure out the things that make the most sense to her. Welcome to the crazy life of healthcare workers. It doesn't matter if you are a nurse at an ICU or ER, or a paramedic on one of these big UPS trucks with sirens and first aid kits on board. You will meet sometimes completely crazy and entitled people. It was a quiet and rainy April day in a small town in northern Germany when our pagers rang. Female around 14-year-old fell down the stairs. Not even 1 minute later we were rolling with lights and music. After a 10-minute drive we arrived at the upper-class neighborhood. The house was at the end of a smaller street, had 2 floors and some expensive cars parked in front of it. We rang and a woman opened the door.
Finally, you are here. What took you so long?
My partner tells her, "Traffic. Can we come in now?" She led us on the first floor on a carpet with a girl lying with a bleeding wound on the back of her head, but still conscious. Her best friend or whatever you would call her started to explain.
She tried my shoes on, wanted to go down the stairs with them, and after a mishap the silly cow tripped and fell down.
I ask, was she unconscious?
No, but she is bleeding. The carpet turned red. We tried to pull it away under her.
So you moved her?
The carpet, yes. But this plug got stuck and ruined the carpet.
At that moment I knew that mom and daughter will make life harder for us. A while later my partner was getting more equipment and called a doctor to the scene. I was going further through the examination. While I was talking to the 16-year-old patient, he cried a bit but was still mostly calm. The entitled mother started to interrupt me.
Just get a wheelchair, set her on and go. You don't need that long.
That's not that easy. This is a traumatic injury. If we don't act carefully, we could hurt her really bad, and that could make things much worse.
Well, just please act quick.
A few moments later, my partner came back. He says, "Doctor is at a bigger scene. The other one needs at least 30 minutes. And the entitled daughter interrupts.
Could you move a bit to the side? My phone is ringing upstairs.
No, I'm working here to help your friend.
Come on, this is our house.
The entitled mother says, this is not just a broken leg or a little cut. If we didn't act careful, this will get worse. The entitled daughter rolls her eyes.
Fine, if you say so.
My partner suddenly had a brilliant idea. Well, it was in the first part at least. He tells him, "Could you two please go out, get us the patient's parents' phone number, and also wait for the doctor to arrive so that he can find our location easier." The entitled mother and daughter went out and we were finally able to keep a quiet room to calm the patient down. Me thinking, good, that will keep them at least 20 minutes away and calm. After around 10 minutes I went down to set up the stretcher. I walked around the ambulance to open the back doors. I noticed the front passenger door was open. I looked inside and the entitled mother was working on our GPS system. "Excuse me, what are you doing?" I asked her.
"I'm just trying to put the clinic from my sister in your GPS. She's a doctor. She can help the patient."
If you don't stop that right now, I will get the police here."
"For what? Trying to help you save a life? My sister is Dr. XY at Hospital X, you know?"
First, that hospital is at least 100 kilometers away from here. And second, I know this hospital. This is a dental clinic, and the patient didn't lose a tooth. So please, let us do our job and stay away from our ambulance or I will get the police here."
"Whatever, I tried to help."
Right. After that I looked inside the ambulance and the entitled daughter was sitting on one of the passenger chairs with her feet up on the stretcher. I told her to get out too and I finally could set up the stretcher. I went back to the patient and my partner. Another 5 minutes later we were in the ambulance. I put a needle in her arm, checked the blood pressure, pulse, and the other vitals again. Then we were ready for the doctor. Suddenly someone knocked at our side door. It was the entitled daughter.
"Here are your shoes. Mine are ruined, like the carpet. Don't worry, you'll get a bell."
The patient tells her, "Just get lost." I say, "Please leave us alone. We are working here." I locked the ambulance, no one could come in. About 2 minutes later someone knocked again at the door. My partner yells a bit louder, "Last warning, I will get the police." Sorry, I thought someone needs a doctor." The doctor says. After unlocking the door, the doctor came in. We gave some medications and the patient made it safe and stable to a hospital nearby. After telling the doctor what happened, he understood why we nearly called the cops on him. By the refilling of our ambulance, we noticed something. The entitled mother, I don't know how, but she managed to set our GPS language to Russian. Luckily, we knew how to fix this fast. Imagine being a German paramedic on a way to a call, but the navigation is telling you where to go in Russian. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.